Hello, everyone, and welcome to Young Africa Connects. I'm Chido Nyaruata, and I'll be your moderator for today's inspiring conversation. Our sign language interpreter is Rose Omolo. Young Africa Connects is part of a monthly series hosted by the MasterCard Foundation through the Young Africa Works Facebook and Instagram pages. This month, we spotlight Young Innovation, Youth Innovation for a Sustainable Future, a movement driven by young Africans who are reimagining how we live, work, and care for our planet. With over 70% of the continent's population under 30, their creativity and resilience are critical to achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And I'm honored to be in conversation with 5 young innovators and policymakers who are working to build resilient communities. So let's meet our amazing panelists who will introduce themselves. I'll bring on Sally to to introduce herself and her organization.
Thank you very much, moderator, for the warm welcome. My name is Salita Benjo. I am a trained medical laboratory scientist, researcher, and also the founder of Happy Me Health. Happy Me Health is a lifestyle organization that is focused on helping underserved communities gain access to healthcare resources, free early diagnosis. We do a lot of healthcare donations like sanitary tampons, first aid kits, and we also partner with other organizations because we know it's not just about health, but there are so many things that these communities need. So we partner with other organizations to make sure we empower them with sustainable livelihood trainings like charcoal briquettes, how to sell natural juice. That way we know we're empowering them to sustain themselves. So thank you all so much. And I'm looking forward to an amazing conversation.
Thank you so much, Sally, for briefly telling us about your organization. We'll dive a lot more into it. We are now going to shift to Enoch, who is from Ghana and will be introducing himself. Thank you. Over
Okay,
to
hello
you,
everyone.
Enoch.
My name is Enoch Oparimit. I'm a PhD candidate in governance and sustainability from the University of Kingston in London. I also hold my accredited Masters of Research from the same university, an MBA from University of Liverpool, an MSc in governance, and a bachelor's degree in English from Ghana. So I've co-edited and co-authored What is Africa's First Sustainability Casebook publication, Sustainability Management and Strategy, which is an African casebook. I am also the visionary behind Steady Sustainability Hub, the world's first and largest sustainability education and careers marketplace. I also double as the founder of Sustainability News Africa. These platforms are dedicated to amplifying Africa's sustainability visibility, product market, and interestingly, a news tracker functionality that is helping to track all the news reporting on Africa's 2063 goals. I've been working in the sustainability, nexus from academia to industry. And I think this has provided me with the opportunity to meet young people from diverse background. And I significantly believe that this exposure has really positioned me to talk a lot about green skills and green career development, and most importantly, about a new phase of employability, which I'm going to discuss, which we call the new green labor mobility, which is very critical to the continent here and then outside. So I look forward to an engaging conversation with my fellow panelists. And yeah, I say welcome.
Thank you, Enoch. Over to Innocent.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Innocent. I'm in Nairobi, so it's afternoon for me. I co-lead 3 organizations, Startinev, Africa Hackon, and Startup Garage. Startinev is an ecosystem enabler, and we aim to create an enabling ecosystem for entrepreneurs and innovators across the continent. And through that, we have 2 other brands, Startup Garage being a startup. We are a startup studio as well, and it's because we really believe that we need to give more to our entrepreneurs. Besides knowledge, they need resources, they need funding, they need training, and everything that else that they will need. And Africa Hackon, which is a cybersecurity training arm, and the goal for us is to actually provide cybersecurity experts and cybersecurity knowledge to the startups that we support. So looking forward to the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Over to Inye.
Hi everyone, I'm Inie. I'm a development consultant, and I like to think of myself as someone who has interests that cuts across so many different spaces. So I work a lot in advocacy, advocacy particularly focused on human capital. So human capital for, health, sustainability, fashion, whatever. I'm also very passionate and really interested in how we can create innovative situations in Africa across the continent where we are seeing where we are working with our communities to ensure that we're using the planet wisely. And so I'm really interested in the conversation. I'm happy to discuss as we go on.
Thank you so much, Inye. And lastly, Asafo, please introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Chido. I am called Asafo Nzifo Emmanuel. I am an entrepreneur, Cameroonian entrepreneur resident in Cameroon. I started 7 years ago. I started my first software company, and I've been building software since then. Last year, my team and I decided to pivot from being a service company building software for businesses, build software banks and microfinance and all that. And we're pivoting into fintech. So our goal is to we're building the operating system for micro, small, and medium-sized businesses. We believe that the several millions of micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in Africa are going to be the engine that will power the future. And so we're building to serve that market. I have a background in engineering, and I'm glad to be here. I see myself as a design thinker. And so when I look at solutions, I'm always thinking about what is the most efficient, straightforward way to get the best value out of the situation. And so today's topic, how to build innovative solutions that are sustainable, is one that's very close to my heart. And so I'm looking forward to a very productive conversation. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much to our amazing panelists. We have such a diverse group of individuals, from ecosystem builders to engineers to academics to advocates to techpreneurs as well. So this conversation promises to be rich and rooted in reality and practice of our panelists. With so much potential among Africa's young people, I'm really curious to hear from you all. What does youth innovation for a sustainable future mean to you personally and in your work? I'll start with Enoch, as I believe your case book, as you said, the first of its kind in Africa, offers some insights on this topic. What gaps in sustainability education and practice were you hoping to fill when you started this project?
So thank you very much, and hello again to the audience. So for me, if you ask what the definition of sustainable development is, I will tell you by quoting one very anonymous author who said that we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we rather borrow it from our children. And if you want to really put this into perspective, you realize that 100 years from now, 50 years from now, our children's children would not be asking how well our fathers today did in carrying some of the challenges we have today. They are going to put all the blame and disappointment at our doorsteps, and we are going to ask them why. And they are going to tell us that we understood the technology in the 21st century. We didn't just understand the technology, we understood the times. We had the age population to our advantage. We are over 70% of young people on the surface of the continent of Africa. Aside that, we understood the times and we understood the urgency. And guess what? We significantly contributed to this whole conversation of fast food, fast fashion, and what not. So you would realize that when it really comes to the role young people have to play in the sustainability space, it is not relegating ourselves to the back, but taking full advantage of the enabling environment we find ourselves in. Because as I said, we are going to be the people who are going to suffer the brains and questions and whatnot. But what this casebook did, number one, was, I was sharing early on about how people think Africa do not have sustainability stories, and they think our stories are not even contextual. You walk into business schools on the African continent, and they are teaching sustainability business, and they are still using stories like case studies from Amazon, case studies from McDonald's, and what have you. Where is the Dangote or Tedula story from Nigeria? What is Johan's story in South Africa doing? The Mo family in Kenya. We have very outstanding stories we can archive, document them as case studies so that you walk into a business and marketing class, you walk into a procurement class, you walk into an international trade class, you can read a kind of Harvard casebook review kind of structure. We can have books like what Napoleon Hill did about Think and Grow Rich, where he had to interview, very amazing millionaires who are part of what America is today. We have those stories, but visibility is a problem. Apart from visibility, for example, Asafo's team is doing something wonderful. Innocent team is doing wonderful. Who is chronicling the journey? All we do is to put a spotlight on the success, but we need the chronicle of the problem, the challenges as case studies, which are shared in class. And this will be critical in, bridging that gap between academia and industry. So this first book publication was very critical to the whole sustainability archival, conversation. And most importantly, it took us 3 years to deliver this project. Whilst similar of the same project in the UK took us about 6 to 8 months. So again, it gives us great joy, myself and my team, to even talk about our spin-off, which is Sustainability News Africa, where we are collating every news content across the continent on one platform. We've developed a functionality which is helping us track each country's and each region's advancement towards the realization and achievement of the Africa 2063 agenda. So yes, the casebook is not going to be our last because, hey, we have done the casebook. I've never heard of Asafo's story. I've never heard of Inie's story. I've never heard of Sally's story. This is going to be a continuous project, which is going to not just document the case studies, but most importantly, provide visibility. Because you can imagine a student, when I tell a student I'm teaching sustainability reporting, I want to pick a case study from Africa, and it's been 3 minutes and I don't find any case study. And then I hear a shout from the background. I don't think there are any sustainability case stories in Africa. There is. And myself and my team have taken it upon myself with my co-authors to push this agenda of spotlighting visibility on the journey of African entrepreneurs in the sustainability field.
Thank you for that response. And as you were highlighting the issue of visibility, that's why this program exists, because we need to spotlight younger innovators. And now let's shift over to a techpreneur, Sally. Sally, your experience, as you highlighted, your app, the application that you have, Happy Me Health, you're connecting underserviced communities with healthcare. What has been your biggest lesson in health with sustainability?
Okay. First of all, I'd like to say that I've been doing Happy Me Health for over way more than 3 years now. And adding to what he said, for me, I think sustainability kind of means long-term. That's like something you want to build resilience doing. And as youth, we all have to understand that sometimes we have to act on societal problems without necessarily having spotlights. So we have to jump on things. When I started Happy Me Health, I was looking at just offering healthcare services, just doing the talk, the education about chronic illnesses. But somewhere along the line, I realized I can do much more. So I had to go back to family, solicit support, and come back and buy strips, buy machines, went back and I started doing diagnosis. Somewhere along the line again, I felt like after the diagnosis, what next? If you tell this person you have high blood sugar, you have pressure, wow, how are you helping the person? So I started sourcing out local products that are nutritional alternatives for diabetes and hypertension. And I offered it to them. And somewhere along the line again, this is 2025, and we're talking about AI-powered solutions for Happy Me Health. We're talking websites, we're talking digital solutions by social media platforms. And we're also seeing how we can use AI to make sure that we make health accessible in these underserved communities. So what I want to tell the youth out there, as local youth, we have to evolve with time. We have to learn new things. We have to source opportunities and make sure we are prepared for the opportunities. And we also have to make sure we are visible. How do we get visible? Through research. We have to inform, like gather enough information about this problem we're solving. We also have to map out the stakeholders. Like when I'm talking to young women sometimes and I say stakeholders, they feel stakeholder is this big word. Like stakeholder is meant for the rich, it's meant for the high class people. They don't stakeholder just mean people who share the same feeling, they share the same pain towards a particular problem. So it's about time we encourage everybody to take on policies. I've been doing policy for over 2 years now, and they need those voices. They need us to speak our plights. They need us to say our needs exactly how we want them to be done. And that said, I just believe sustainability for me is just you waking up every day, pushing for your passion, doing the same thing, and you know it's like a forever something. It's not going to end in Cameroon. It's not going to end in Africa. We are pushing so that everybody has health access across the world. So thank you. That's what I would like to contribute.
Amazing contributions from you, Sally. And I love that you've highlighted stakeholder does not mean it's a bad word or a scary word. It's not just meaning government officials but it's actors who have the same interest in you, who you can collaborate and make bigger action and bigger impact. And as well as you were sharing your narrative, it seems as though along your journey, you kept scaling up, shifting, pivoting, making sure that you can take different avenues to ensure access. And I love that you ended on the issue of policies. We have to critically engage policies. And I would love to bring Inye in because the thing is, for young people to innovate, we need to have an enabling policy and a business environment for our innovations to thrive. And Inye, I would really love to hear from your experiences, from your work with ECOWAS to grassroots initiatives. How do we ensure that policies truly reflect community needs?
Thank you very much, Chido. So as Sally was talking and she said the word stakeholders, I was like, yes, stakeholders are a very crucial aspect, especially like the policy in general. But for me, it really begins with listening. I think that oftentimes we have policies that don't consider every single stakeholder in the value chain. So especially in some of the work we had at ECOWAS, one of the key pillars was data. And it was data of human capital. If we're saying that, X amount of people are financially excluded, or X amount of people don't have access to health, you need the data. You need data to do things concretely to efficiently address these challenges. And so for me, I think it always begins with listening. Policy, good policy, sustainable policy begins with listening so that governments can see the gaps, especially with that as well. And if you don't listen to people, you actually don't know what their specific pain points are. And I think also at the grassroots level, so that's, I guess, at the regional government level, and at the grassroots level, we've worked on building advocacy infrastructure as well that empowers communities to be able to articulate their own priorities. And so what that also does is it creates a feedback loop, right? So if a community in, Lagos, Nigeria, a community in, South in Nigeria is saying, hey, our waterways are being clogged up. We have a problem. We are not able to fish the way we used to fish 10 years ago. Being able to amplify those voices, because those voices need to speak to the policy and whatever policy we're developing. I think sometimes also we have situations where like community voices can then be tokenized, and they're not actually like concretely integrated into policy design. But ultimately, like policies should be sustainable, and they can only be sustainable when people see themselves in those policies, and when governments are also accountable to the people who see themselves in the policy. So for me, listening is a key factor, and it's like a feedback loop that it's like I always kind of see it as like a cycle, whereas like communities, other stakeholders, private sector, everyone, government, because I think we also don't realize that everyone feeds into policy in one way or another. It's not, we think policy, we just think government. But policy is, every actor here, right? Policy is the market woman on the streets who is saying, actually, guys, I'm not able to sell plantain anymore because I think in Nigeria, for example, we've had a challenge with ginger. So the last couple of ginger stock has really bad because they've been having issues and they've been complaining. This is linked to a lot of like climate issues because we're having droughts and all of these things. So listening to the specific pain points of the people, then you move from, okay, the market woman to the farmer, to, the big agricultural company, having everybody kind of play a role. So for me, I think the answer is listening. Listening is very crucial to ensure that policies reflect community needs because the communities are feeling the issues the most.
And listening is such a powerful, powerful tool. Sometimes it's not appreciated enough, as you rightly said, that sometimes certain groups are not listened to. And I want to bring in Innocent. Innocent, you've had the opportunity and the ability to create ecosystems, right? So you've built spaces where thousands of entrepreneurs have connected. And I'm hoping in this process of connecting, you've had the opportunity to listen to entrepreneurs' pain points and their aspirations as well. But what do you think is the most underrated factor in ecosystem building?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of entrepreneurs, and you quickly realize that the entrepreneurs who are more successful sort of belong to certain communities, and we really underrate the value of community when it comes to building a startup, right? And the other day, somebody asked me if I was to live by just one statement, what that will be, and I think the one statement I'd live by is the value of failing fast. If you're failing, fail as fast as possible, and then pick up yourself, right? But you can only do that if you're failing in community, because community helps you to sort of analyze the failing points, right? So if I'm trying to build a fintech and somebody else in the community has built a fintech before, it becomes extremely easy for me to say, look, don't do this, do this. This is how you scale. These are markets to go into. These are markets that have these regulations. These ones don't. And I consistently even tested my own ideas within communities. Like, if I was to give an example of Startup Garage, our largest starting community has about 8,000 entrepreneurs cutting across the continent. And these are founders who've gone through many of our programs. We run Techstars programs in Kenya, for example. So we run startup weekends, we run startup weeks, and all these founders all sort of go into one pool, right? And over time, we've been able to monitor their successes, but also their failures. And one of the things we realized is that founders are now complaining that everybody is training them, but nobody's giving them anything more than training. So they are now overtrained, they are over-mentored, underfunded, right? And so what we did was we asked them, do you feel you're overtrained, or do you feel like you're trained in things that you don't necessarily require? And one of the things we realized from that sort of analysis was the fact that they're not trained on stuff like operational resilience. They're not trained on stuff like why are you building a startup? Is it exiting? Is it scaling? They don't have that journey at all. And then we even ourselves were able to test and sort of learn from the same community we are building. So if I was to allude to one thing genuinely, it's how much we undervalue community, because in community and when you fail in community, becomes really easy to pick yourself up or even to pivot. Yeah.
That is amazing. Community, learning to fail in community. And as you were highlighting the pain points of founders, I just thought of Asafo. Asafo, your initiative, QuickNap, is a pioneering automatic savings for merchants. How did you identify this gap, and what impact are you already seeing?
Okay, thank you very much, Chido. So for me, personally, I have an issue. I've had a hard time saving, right? And I realized when you study systems, you realize that the systems where people don't have to rely on their discipline and their willpower are, in the end, the most resilient systems, the most sustainable systems, because they are basically self-fulfilling prophecies, right? And that's the whole idea behind automatic savings. Our goal is that these merchants will usually make money on a daily. They have entries during the time that they're working, whether they are driving a car or selling in the market and whatnot. During the time that they're working, they're making quite some good money. But immediately they leave all their economic issues, their family issues, and whatnot come to choke this money. And at the end of the month, sometimes they don't even have enough money to replenish their stock, which you imagine that. So the idea is you need to take away the stress of thinking about saving from them. And that is why we created this automatic savings and feature where at the beginning, when they're creating an account with us, with QuickCap, they can set a percentage, it's like 10%, 5%, 20%, whatever they want. And every time that they get paid, that amount is deducted and saved, you know. And when they set this percentage, they also set a period. So they can decide, oh, I want to do this for a month, I want to do this for 2 months, I want to do this for a year, or whatever works for them. And already we're seeing that first it's when you talk to a merchant about this, in the CEMAC zone, there are like 1.5 million micro, small, and medium-sized businesses, and a third of those are in Cameroon, right? 500,000 of them are in Cameroon. And when you talk to them, you can see like there's a light bulb moment. You can see how their eyes shine, and they're like, okay, oh, so we could do this. And so the first thing is it's just a simple solution. It's an obvious solution that it just solves the issue. You don't have to think about it. The merchant doesn't have to think about it. And at the end of the day, they have savings. They just have some savings somewhere. And I got this idea when I was doing when I was working for a microfinance 8 years ago. Yeah, I was working for a microfinance 8 years ago. I was leading the sales effort to penetrate the market and sell credit to market women. And there was a time I had like 130 direct customers, and I helped them get some credit. And I realized that why would send people to go get savings from them daily? You could save only little amounts because this person comes once. So I said, okay, if they could be saving while they earn, then it would solve the issue. And to push it a little further, we hope that this automatic savings and this system where they save as they earn could pioneer an alternative credit scoring system that would permit micro, small and medium-sized businesses to access credit to scale that is not necessarily asset-backed. Because the way it works now is you need to prove that you're wealthy enough to not need a loan in order to get a loan. And so we think that it's not sustainable, right? It cages capital. It makes very few people to be able to access capital, leaves a lot of capital sleeping in banks and what have you. So yeah, this is our goal, to unlock that capital and create systems where people don't have to rely on their good character necessarily, but the systems integrate into their day-to-day lives and finally make their lives easier.
I am absolutely blown away by the innovations that have been shared by our various panelists. I'm sure that our Facebook and Instagram audience are also learning from the various innovations that these amazing 5 young people are. So I would love to say, welcome, please engage, ask questions in the comments. We will be reading your questions and comments in the next 15 minutes. So please start populating them. And as Asafo was speaking, it's so fascinating that you're unlocking capital and resources, but critically saving for people who might not necessarily be able to navigate the economy. You mentioned market women, you mentioned various merchants across different scales. So I think I would love to go to our second round of questions, and just to Enoch, how can young people position themselves to take advantage of green skills and emerging sustainability careers? I kindly ask that we keep our answers a bit short so that we can have some time to engage our listeners on Facebook and on Instagram. Over to you, Enoch.
Yeah, so one of the spin-off projects from the book has to do with the very huge gap we found when it's came to the conversation of skills development and career development in the area of sustainability. So I think what we did as an organization, myself and my team, we put together a platform called Study Sustainability Hub. We activated the social media handles, for example, on LinkedIn 4 months ago, and we've already crossed about 5,000 organic followers, showing a very strong agency for people to upskill, and then reskill. But this platform, Study Sustainability Hub, is the first of its kind. It has collated every sustainability education and career content you need. So from university programs, focus on sustainability, to free courses, to events, to grants, to scholarships, to fellowship. And most importantly, one of our biggest selling points is the careers catalog, because we speak to young people. Yes, they've heard about green skills, but right after, so I take a course on circular economy. How does the job title in the industry even looks like? So before you even go to the university to choose whichever sustainability course you want to do, we've helped users develop a journey, have an idea of the kind of job you want to do in industry on our careers catalog and panel. Not just that, come to free courses, take some of the free courses. For example, you do finance, you want to enter into the area of carbon market and sustainable finance. Just go take some free courses on sustainable finance to give you a fair idea of what you would want to transition into. You already have an idea of the careers you are looking at. Go to the university programs. And again, it is the first approach where we are encouraging students to take advantage of industry events, because they do their 4-year bachelor's degree, 2 years master's or whatever. They've not attended any industry event related to, for example, circular economy, biodiversity, renewable energy. But on our platform, you get up-to-date events in your area. Apart from the events, you are a student, you complete, you want to be an innovator, have a very brilliant idea which could really help the community. Just go to the grant section, go to the fellowship section, and there's a lot of resources to help you. So we have created this platform to be a buffer stock to push Africa's green economy talent. Not just that, there's also conversation about new green talent mobility, where a funny story, an Indian goes to a bank to rob, only to get to the bank, the system is down, and the manager walks out, see the Indian and say, tech support, can you come and help me? It simply tells us of the kind of identity, a country like India has created for themselves in the tech space. And we want same to be the story for green talents in Africa as well.
Thank you so much, Enoch. So to the young people listening on Facebook and on Instagram, go to this platform and look at the various careers, look at the opportunities that are there. The resources are available. I want to go over to Sally. Sally, as a Pan-Africanist and a youth advocate, how do you see young women driving change in Africa's startup ecosystem?
That's an amazing question. Basically, I think one of the things that are really, really lacking in our startup ecosystem is honesty. I always say that women can drive honesty through registering your businesses, making sure everything you do is accountable. So aside from pushing economic security, like pioneering, entrepreneurship, innovation, creativity in these different spheres, because like when you look at the fashion industry, women are doing amazing things. And we just have to channel this energy towards other sectors. And I think another highlight for me would be policy. The reason why I'm highlighting policy, like when Inye was talking about the whole listening, it was just resonating with me, because I believe we're at a point where when we say these things in our communities, we need women in position of leadership and power that can push these things. And I also think one of the reasons why policies don't make it out there to implementation sometimes is because the people making this policy, they don't feel it. Not everybody is in agreement with the policies that are stated. And we women were born with this natural mediator kind of inborn quality, conflict resolution. we need more women, Pan-African women in there to make sure that these policies are fair. Because like when you see a woman taking care of her children, she has this way to make everybody feel love. Everybody feels like mama has me at the back of her mind. So we need a lot of women to make sure that these policies don't end on briefing papers, they actually get out there to implementation. So that to me, I think those are the two major important things where Pan-African women can position themselves and push innovation across Africa. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Sally. And as you were speaking around the issue of policies, of the goals that have been set up, we have the goal on the African continent, Goal 2063. And, as we're harnessing digital technologies to meet our sustainable goals, as we look towards this, we need to make sure that we are protected against data breaches, service disruptions, financial losses. And I want to bring in Innocent. With your experience in startups and cybersecurity, how can we make sure that Africa is balancing innovation with security in our digital transformation?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And the reason I think it's interesting is because everybody is sort of moving online in one way or the other. And especially being in Nairobi, it's a lot more interesting. I mean, we started moving money online 2008, right? And there hasn't been a lot of training when it comes to securing ourselves. So everybody's telling us to go online, use WhatsApp, use Instagram, use whatever tool, right? Kenya is number one in terms of ChatGPT usage, but nobody talks about the protection side. What do we need to do? What don't we need to do to be safe online? And I think that's what we've been trying to solve. So for Africa Hackon, we've run the Cybersecurity Collective for 13 years now. Initially, it was just smaller meetups. Again, it was community driven. We were trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. And over time, we realized that Kenya has a huge shortage of cybersecurity experts. The talent doesn't exist, and probably it stems from the fact that cybersecurity as a skill is not even taught in schools, right? And late last year, we decided, you know what, we need to sort of change the story. And what we did is we came up with our own curriculum, got it accredited, and we strongly believe that for Africa to be secure in any way at all, we need to first provide the skill for that security. The skill that is currently there is literally not enough, assuming needed that skill. And especially if you look at the startup world, a lot of startups lose money. And I keep alluding to the fact that getting hacked is like, you go saying you got conned. You just cry in your bedroom and go home, right? It's the same thing. A lot of startups are getting hacked and they don't speak about it at all. Guys get hacked every day. And it's simple ways of getting yourself protected that could save us from that problem. More skilling. The gap won't be crossed that fast. There's a lot of the gap is quite huge, so there'll be a bit of time before that gap becomes maybe a ratio of 1-to-1. But until we get there, I think we need to skill, but at the same time, individually, we need to start, practicing simple digital security safety. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And as you were talking about founders and individuals getting hacked, I just wanted to bring in Asafo, scaling, security, funding remain challenges for young innovators. Maybe in 1 or 2 minutes, Asafo, you could just share, what are some of the strategies that have worked for you in navigating these hurdles? And what advice would you give other young fintech founders trying to build inclusive financial solutions?
Okay, thank you very much, Chido. So the first thing for me, when it comes to first funding, which is a real issue, right? Especially in my side of Africa, in Central Africa, and in Central Africa, very, very little capital comes this way. My friends in Nairobi will not relate. But yeah, for me, the first thing is we need to build businesses that make money. The best form of funding in the world for every business is the money that your customers pay you. And so if you could build a sustainable business that can fund itself, then you're way ahead, right? But if you're trying to raise capital, the first thing would be clarity. You need a clarity of vision, clarity of mission, and another thing would be storytelling, right? The founders will need to come to the front and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is what we're struggling, but these are the wins we're getting, this is the future we're seeing. You just sell the vision, you have to tell the story. And nobody, that's a job that cannot be outsourced, right? You can't outsource it. If you're a founder, that's part of your work. And so for me, I've been trying to, I'm a writer too. I write poetry. And so I've been trying to put myself more out there and just try my best and see. But in terms of funding, nothing attracts money as much as a sustainable business that makes money. Because you start making money, everybody wants to give you money. Recently, the founders of Chowdeck is this food delivery platform that's doing great in Nigeria and Ghana. The founder the company raised the Series A of $9 million. And the founder said he tried to raise that money 6 months prior. Nobody was interested. But when they became profitable, everybody was basically throwing money at them. So it's not, the solution is just build a sustainable business. As for security, and a lot of times in Africa, we innovators, we think about security after we've built, right? But security needs to basically be the bedrock. It needs to be there at the very beginning. So check out the certifications, what are the kinds of certifications that you need, and what are various measures that you can do. For example, on our platform, instead of having people create passwords, because a lot of people will create weak passwords that make it easy to hack. Because with social media today, a lot of people are sharing a lot of things, and hackers can piece together from your social media profile what your password can be. So we just take out that step, and every time that people log in, every time our merchants log in, we send them an OTP, and of course it's never the same OTP. So I think innovators and entrepreneurs need to think about security from the get-go. Right. So, and in terms of scaling, I like the fact that Enoch in his intervention spoke a lot about community. Nothing scales. Scaling a business is a community effort. It's not a personal effort. It's not a money thing. It's a community effort. So if you're building a business that's consumer facing and that's solving a real problem, you need to insert yourself in that community to better understand their pain points. And when you solve their pain points, they'll recruit their peers to join you. So building, and that's still part of building a sustainable business, right? So if you build a business that makes money, that's community driven, and if you think of security from the very beginning, then you're off to a very good footing.
Oh, thank you so much, Asafo. And as you were speaking about being storytelling, it's so interesting. You're a multifaceted person, engineer, microfinance, poetry, just shows that we are not one-dimensional. And your experiences around advocacy, policy, and culture, what role does storytelling play in advancing sustainable development in Africa? And could you just provide this in about 1.5 minutes as we're closing to wrapping up?
Yeah, so I think really tying up what everyone has said so far is really the idea that like storytelling is a bridge. And I think it's a bridge between policy and people. So oftentimes I think we have data and policy frameworks that can feel very abstract, very vague, very clinical. But I think stories make them tangible. Like what Asafo was just saying now about, okay, you want to get funding for your business. People don't realize that you can have all of these fancy numbers, but then if people don't actually feel the feeling of your business by you creating a story or a narrative for them, it doesn't make sense. I think that stories make things tangible, make things human, and also like it shows the urgency of our work as well, because by tying it to human needs. So for me, I think it's ultimately just about elevating people's experiences, making sure that we are centering people's issues. And I think stories ultimately, I think just the end on this is that I think stories shift mindsets. I think for us in Africa, what we really need is a mindset shift. And we're seeing that even in a lot of the ways that our culture is exporting. People are having different ideas of what Africa is. So it's building a deeper sense of empathy, a deeper sense of connection, and ultimately it leads to action. So if I know this about you, then I can actually help in this way or contribute in this way, and it just changes, all sorts. And so for me, ultimately, Storytelling Centers African Agency, and ultimately we see that sustainable development is something that communities can is built through them when we tell their stories. Thank you.
So powerful. Stories are shifting narratives about the continent, about the work that we're doing. And some sentiments that we're having from our Facebook and Instagram audience. Paul Essel says, amazing, great work. We will be linking the website in the comments, so please look through in the comments. On Instagram, Nadia Ation says, very useful tool by Enoch. Evan says the platform by Enoch is great. They ask a question, does the platform address all skills across all known sectors? And I think Enoch did highlight this, that there are various skills and career opportunities that are put on this platform. But Enoch, if you just want to respond to this very briefly, if your platform addresses all skills across all known sectors.
Yes, so I think one of the very good things about our platform, for example, I just don't want to mention the names of the brands. When you go and type sustainability, you have over 10,000 courses being, shoved through your throat. But what we've done is that we've been able to categorize our course content. So, for example, as I said, if you are in fashion, then you go to our platform, whether it's on the events section, it's on the careers catalog, it's at the university programs or free courses, you would find courses which have been curated just for your area across all industries, across all subject matters. So yes.
Thank you so much for that response. I'm sure that our audience member Evans has been answered. As we're coming to a close, I'm going to give our panelists a moment to give their parting shot. Let it be brief, punchy, and memorable. I'm sure this conversation has ignited a lot of thoughts and inspiration in our audience members. So just please provide your punching shot for youth innovations for a sustainable future in Africa. So I will start off with Inye.
Yeah, so I think ultimately for me, it's a call and a plea to our governments, because at the end of the day, we can want to do all of these amazing things, but we need an enabling environment. And in order to have an enabling environment that enables youth to be innovative, but sometimes your ideas remain at survival mode because you can't access finance, you can't access markets or policy support. So for me, it's ultimately this idea that young Africans, we don't lack ideas, we just lack the pathways to actually scale those ideas. So we need support.
Well, we don't lack ideas, but we lack the pathways and they need to be created. What a powerful statement. Over to Innocent.
Yeah, I want to give a parting shot, but to deconstruct a myth as well. We are struggling with funding in Nairobi as well. It's not as rosy as we see it on the internet. But yeah, I want to give a parting shot that agrees with the fact that the most successful founders are the founders who've been able to figure out how to make their money from their customers. It's the only way, right? Then me putting money on your startup or on your idea becomes easier. But maybe besides that, I'd want to see more Africans investing in fellow Africans. I'm still convincing my parents that they can invest in means of buying land. And I hope that all of us do that and that eventually we have more investment from our fellow Africans. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for debunking the myth. That's critical. Over to Sally.
For me, I'm going to keep it short. I'm just urging all African youth out there to know that it starts with you. Let us choose collaborations over competitions and know that when we do it together, it becomes bigger. So let's all push for partnershiping for the goals. Thank you.
No, thank you so much, Sally. Over to Asafo.
Okay, so I'm going to just read a poem. I wrote a really short poem that basically captures what I want us as Africans to take home, as young Africans trying to build a sustainable innovation. So here it goes. It's called, the title is Cheers to Immortality. And yeah, here I come. When you wake up today, look with defiance to the sun. Do not limit your visions to your sight, for there's unconquered territory beyond the horizon. With rejection, you must treat every no. Sometimes it's okay to give up. Despise everyone who says so. Respect no closed doors, for every door is either open or ready to be broken. Stubbornly rise above the defined sets, and someday you will make yourself the one on whom the sun never sets. Thank you very much.
Wow. Snaps on snaps. Thank you so much, Asafo. That was amazing. And I love that you said open doors. There's no closed doors. Open it or you break it through. So we actually do have one final question to Enoch. Can professional trainers be given an opportunity to offer their courses on the platform, Study Sustainability Hub? This is a question that's just coming.
So we have, for example, Innocent was talking about some of the skills development and training pathways, as Inie mentioned. So we have also another section on our platform called professional trainings, where professional trainers can host any short course they are running in any field of sustainability, and we have already directed the traffic for users to see that. Not just that, I mean, if there's any time young Africans have to support themselves, it is now. So for one of our platforms as Sustainability News Africa, we have a product market. What we are telling innovators like Innocence, like Asafo, is that please keep innovating. When it comes to the visibility, we have a product market that will put your product out there, that will bring the necessary visibility. And most importantly, we also get you the data interactivity, the user interactivity, and all the analytics to assess the risks and opportunity hotspots to keep your continuous innovation going, so that we fund our innovation here in Africa. Yeah, thank you.
Great. And that's amazing. And I think another question that has actually come up, and this is open to anyone, is, many African innovate out of necessity rather than opportunity. How can we shift from the survival-driven to scalable, impactful innovation? And this is open to any one of our panelists. Or should I direct it?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I think I want to. Sorry, Asafo. Let me just throw in all what I have really fast. So what I noticed in the ecosystem is we just keep doing things in bits. Even when we want to give funding sometimes to startups, it's not really scalable. It's not big money. So what I think is more incubators or accelerators can actually come together, pull in more resources, and actually help these startups in our ecosystem. It's going to move them from surviving mode to actually way more sustainable mode when they do it together. And also we need systems that can be put in place to identify, because most times what I realize, especially in Cameroon, is that particular accelerators fund one and same people. They fund the same person. You see this person move from one accelerator to another, keep receiving money, while there are so many other entrepreneurs who are in need of this cash. So we need to put system in place to identify and actually make sure that we're giving money to different people who are pushing different businesses, different creative ideas, and pushing sustainability. So that to me is what I want to add.
Thank you so much, Sally. Asafo, please come in.
Yeah, so to speak to that particular question, I want to say a few things. The first is necessity is the mother of invention. So we will always build on necessity. When you want to create a solution, when you want to solve a problem, the problem must exist before the solution is a solution. So yeah, we're always going to build for necessity. Now, to get out of survival mode, we have to think sustainability, right? Not only not only funding, but sustainable funding. And I think that's what Sally was talking about. It's not just, oh yeah. So for example, there's an initiative in my country where they're trying to do 5,000 startups with less than $2 million. Simply cannot work, right? So you do sustainable funding. And yeah, so that's part of it. Necessity is the mother of invention. And the last thing is, we need to understand that technology is a tool, right? It's a tool. The things that would never change, and those are the best places to lodge your business in. For example, our mothers in the market, the cab drivers, since time immemorial, those jobs have existed. And no matter, like, as the future goes, these jobs would exist. And so while everybody's trying to push us away and say, hey, you need to be very typical, you need to be very different, you need to do something that has never existed, the universe actually rewards people that are typical. Because if you're solving a problem that whose relevance would exist for 1,000 years, then that is very, very sustainable. So necessity is the mother of invention, rather than differentiation that's far off. Let's try to solve in a way that's typical and that is necessary and that can go the long way. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much. I love that. Necessity is the mother of invention. And that is such a powerful, powerful statement, is that it's not that necessity is a bad thing, but more importantly, it's how do we shift from survival to sustainable? We actually had a poll on X where we asked our audience, which area do they think holds the biggest potential for building a sustainable future? And we had 4 options. Our first option was green tech and climate. The second option was digital skills and AI. The third option was youth entrepreneurship. And the fourth option was education and skills development. And the results are in. And from our results, our audience believes that green tech and climate is tied with youth entrepreneurship. 29.4% of our viewers hold that these are the 2 critical spaces for building a sustainable future. The second sphere is education and skills development, which we've been highlighting and discussing in the conversation. And the fourth area that people view holds the biggest potential is digital skills and AI. So thank you to our audience for participating in our poll. Those are very interesting insights, and I think we've been discussing this on our conversation. We also post this to our Instagram family, our Instagram audience, and 45% of our followers voted youth-led entrepreneurship as the biggest driver for sustainable future in Africa. 34% have said digital and tech innovation. Then we had sustainable agriculture coming in. And lastly, we had green and clean energy. So I just want to say thank you to our brilliant, brilliant panelists. I personally have learned a lot. Young people on the continent are pushing innovation. We're not waiting to be given permission to innovate. We're building innovations from necessity. Thank you for sharing experiences from Cameroon, Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya. It has been a rich conversation, a Pan-African conversation. And I hope that our listeners on Facebook and Instagram will not just take this information lightly. There are many resources that have been shared on the various platforms, so take up the opportunity, follow our panelists on LinkedIn, connect with them on the various social media platforms, and keep the conversation going. So I'd like to say thank you for joining us on this episode, and we hope that you continue innovating. So thank you to our panelists and to our audience. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Chido. Thank you.